In the recent Q&A livestream, Jagex dropped a roadmap for upcoming updates, including a skilling update, a new boss, and something that could just be the end of PvP. In this video, we're going to talk about it, so whenever you're ready, grab your cup of tea, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Before the stream started, Ramen posted this tweet on Twitter before later deleting it, saying there may or may not be a huge announcement on today's Runescape livestream.
What deleted tweet? What are you talking about?
And thus, I was eagerly waiting during the livestream as to what they were going to be revealing, and I did not expect them to drop a whole roadmap all the way up to autumn 2022. This is the content roadmap they dropped, and they call this a first look or early look into the updates coming up, and this does give us a good idea of what to expect, which is something we as players have been requesting for quite some time now. So I'm very happy to see a roadmap showing updates all the way up to autumn 2022. I want to point your attention to the coming soon section, as we can see a Zygomite. I believe this is the Zygomite skilling update Jagex was talking about in the March Q&A. It seems that this update will have fletching and fire making training methods, as it says new fletching and fire making training stations and something about tier 95 arrows. I feel like it's safe to assume that these are going to be new tier 95 arrows for ranged, as they didn't say anything about death spore or splintering arrows. They did mention that they were going to give us more details very soon, and it does say coming soon, so I'm going to assume that this is going to be released in the coming month. We're also going to see an Aya themed yak track, which doesn't really excite me too much, but there's always going to be players that like cosmetics, and there's finally going to be Ironman team Dungeoneering, which is something the Ironman player base has definitely been asking for a very long time. So it's safe to assume those Ironman players that don't yet have 99 or 120 Dungeoneering are making some very happy noises right now. Now, we already knew a new boss was coming somewhere around summer, but now we know for sure that it's going to be coming this summer 2022, most likely end June or end July, and it's also going to feature a new quest. I believe quite recently the JMod said something about an item being craftable and useful for bosses, so I assume that's going to be something you get from that quest. Now, the fifth boss is going to be Zamorak, and it's not just going to be a boss, it's going to be an elite dungeon and a boss battle, which could mean that there's going to be two other bosses in that elite dungeon and Zamorak is the final boss, or it's going to be a really tough mob-based elite dungeon. At the end, you unlock the boss battle? The thing that's strange to me is they said elite dungeon and boss battle, as if it's two separate things being added to the game. But they have to be connected somehow, right? Because, you know, it says the fifth boss Zamorak, and then it says the elite dungeon and the boss battle. So I'm going to assume it's just going to be a very tough mob-based dungeon, and at the end, you fight Zamorak. Now, the boss will have tier 95 rewards, and I guess that's to be expected, as this is what Mod Keeper said.
And then
I heard some rumors that it is the hardest boss we made so far.
oh, he's dropping that.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if rewards, and I emphasize the word rewards here, means multiple tier 95s of different styles, but it could also just mean dual wield tier 95 range. But really, with all those tier 95 arrows, there has to be a tier 95 bow, right? And we also still need tier 95 dual wield magic weapons, so maybe it's those three. Who knows? And they also mentioned a new storyline quest, which will obviously not have anything to do with the Elder God War series, as that has finished. Now, I did show a clip of Mod Keeper mentioning that he heard this would be the hardest boss in the game, but I do think there's either going to be a normal plus hard mode or an enrage system, as Mod Jack said this.
We say it's going to be really freaking hard, but it's also going to have accessible modes. So like, previously, fifth bosses have been quite inaccessible content. They've been kind of elite PVMers only. This one is definitely going to be like an elite PVM piece of content, but we're also making sure that it's accessible. So, you know, we don't want a piece of content that only a tiny fraction of our player base can even engage with.
That's always a nice thing to hear, especially for the casuals. Now, in autumn of 2022, we can expect something known as the Wilderness Reborn. And I believe this is going to be the final nail in the coffin, which is already buried about, 6 feet underground, because PvP is, it's not in its prime time anymore. PvP is basically dead already, but the way it's put on this roadmap seems to me like it's going to be more PvM or PvE focused. You know what, let's have a listen to Mod Jack for a second.
We're not looking at that, we're looking at keeping the wilderness. It's going to keep its identity, it's going to stay dangerous, but that danger won't only come from PvP. That danger will come from mechanics that are added in the world. This is far too early to talk about the design in detail at this stage, but we want to retain that sort of high risk, high reward area, but without relying on PvP to provide that reward. At the same time, we're not just removing PvP entirely, so there will be optional PvP for players that want to engage with that. But again, it's too early to talk about exactly how that's going to work.
Now let me know if you thought there was going to be a wildy rework, because I definitely did not expect to see this on a roadmap, let alone even be mentioned as an update. And something I did expect, or at least hope to see, was the death cost rework, and apparently this is being released in autumn of 2022. I hope that isn't a batched update and it's going to be the full thing, because if that's the case, well, 2022 is going to be one heck of a year.
But yeah, death cost is the highest priority right now, because that's something that we can execute fairly quickly and will have an enormous impact on the way players play.
In terms of other updates, we can see a Zamorak themed yak track, and throughout the year we should be seeing some ninja strikes, quality of life stuff, usually very welcome, around skilling, mobile and combat. Speaking of small little changes and updates, Modtimbo just manually updated a bunch of the GE prices, which were completely wrong for some very expensive items, including FSOA pieces, Crypt Bloom, pouches and more. Now, while I mainly focused on the update roadmap, the majority of the stream was actually a Q&A with Modkeeper, who became the executive producer at Jagex in October last year. He's been working at Jagex for 2.5 years and is Dutch like myself. Now, if you want to hear some detailed answers, I suggest you check out the VOD, but some key takeaways from the Q&A were that the player avatar rework is not shelved.
What I can say, it's not shelved, it's definitely sort of being worked on, but it's still a long road to go.
As we describe it in game development, it's got a blocker until that tech comes in, basically, right? And then it might be a possibility that we can start to work on.
While we won't be seeing a tick rate rework anytime soon, we should be seeing some performance updates in the coming years.
But we have similar sort of projects lined up that will improve performance. So I think, as I said, we are doing things. It will take time. This is one of those older projects that we keep on getting back at.
And they seem to have noticed that we want some economy related changes more so than ever, and Mojang basically said that simple fixes like removing all gold drops from the entire drop table would make the game worse, so they're taking their time to look at it, and basically saying any economy related fix takes a long time, so the usual thing they say. But Mojang did say that it's now his second priority.
Right? Like that, my number one priority is we need more content and we need it to be better. My number two priority is the economy. It's like the biggest thing right now, especially with the way it interacts with PVM. That's the most significant.
Mojang also mentioned that going into detail about the economy, the grand exchange and inflation would take up a whole separate stream, so hopefully this is something we might see in the future, although he didn't say that. But you know, if it takes up so much time, maybe make a stream dedicated to the economy, who knows? I would like to see that, maybe you guys would too. Anyways, with that being said, we've come to the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found it interesting. If you did, leave a like down below and maybe even consider subscribing, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.